Hey guys, Mike Schindler here with the Military Wire. We're here at Sozo Friends, Sozo Wines. We did an amazing event with Stephen Elliott, who is the author of War Story. He served with the Tillman brothers, both Kevin and Pat, an amazing story. But I'm sitting here with Gary and Griselda, and they were part of this event. And we had this conversation about how sometimes we all bury things that we've experienced, and we don't want to share it because we're afraid that if we do share it, people will judge us, they will ostracize us, we will no longer have friends, we won't be loved. And we were unpacking that tonight, and you two have an amazing story. What I love about your story is you served, and you served along his side, 30 plus years married. You guys have an amazing story. You've got a journey of where you served on active duty, retired, and then went back. And there's trial, there's overcoming in that story. I want you guys to share a little bit. Gary, I want to start with you and just kind of share quickly how that all unfolded, and then I want you to step in and say, from your perspective, what you saw, what you felt.
Been married for 39 years. I served with Special Forces for 20 plus 1 years. I went through the qualification course for Special Forces training in 1980, and I served with the 7th Special Forces and the 1st Special Forces group. It's really easy to be in that unit and live a dual life. And it just, I think about the hell I put her through and how I know it affected my judgment, it affected my, training. And one caveat is, although I was with Special Forces for 20 plus 1 years, and I'll talk about the one, but I never went to combat.
Yeah.
It was just, I was in from 80 to 1999, and I just never had the opportunity. And yet, there were times where I know I could kill other men because of my foolish decisions, and it, to this day it eats at me. And so it.
But do you not think, Gary, that sometimes we all live a dual life? You talk about living a dual life, right? And whether we've served in uniform or not, that we put a face to the public that all is good, and especially with social media today, right? I mean, if we were to judge the world by social media, it would look amazing. Like the world is so great, right? We live one life on social media, and we live another behind closed doors. And yet in the military, it seems so real because we need to be forward-facing, we need to be strong, we need to be that tip of the spear, and then again, behind closed doors, we have a different life. And that can eat it all.
As this is somewhat revolving around Stephen Elliott's book, War Story. Just a comment that I was going to make on social media is that for me, I believe that somewhere between our warrior ethos, our liability dodgeball, because we're all trying to dodge the liability, don't want her to know who I really am, or who I might be, who I don't want to address.
Yeah.
So somewhere between my warrior ethos, my liability dodgeball, and wounds of the soul, I think all of us, warriors, men, all of us can get really lost. And I'm so thankful that she's
still here.
Yeah.
How did you stick it out? How did you navigate all of this?
I learned early in his career that I knew that the military was a priority. I mean, we were secondary. When I say we, I mean our children also. So I vividly always recall, I can still see it today, when he would have to go TDY, which is overseas, for a period of time. As I would drive him to the compound, I could physically see him changing. From, we're sad he's leaving, from a short drive to the compound to take him to work, he's going to meet up with the other guys. I would see a drastic transformation, in his personality. I mean, his facial also expression would change.
Game face, I guess.
I mean, because it is a high testosterone unit. So that was, he had many times where we were rarely seeing, not only because of, going TDY, but going to different variety of schools. I knew that I was mom and dad, to both our kids. Okay, was it hard sometimes? Yes. I had a great support of a family. I lived in California, but by the same token, it was difficult, those short times where we had him at home, he would have to decompress when he came home. So there were times where it wasn't pretty at home. There was arguments, it was, oh, he's home, but he wants to hang out with his fellow, guys. So those times were tough too. But it was, did I think of separation or divorce? Yes. The thought crossed my mind, it did, more than once. But I knew that I'd known this man since we were children. Okay? And I knew that God put us together. It was Him. And not only put us together, but kept us together. Okay? And I'm so thankful for some of the things we did go through, because we've had the opportunity recently with a soldier who's in active duty, same unit that Gary was in, that they were having problems, and they were severe problems. And it was so good to get together with them, to tell them our story, that we went through the same thing they were going through, and they today are, their marriage has come together, and they now have a little one that they're taking care of. So I know, God does this for a reason, to pay it forward, to know that there is hope, beyond the mess that develops, during the military times, that you can go through it.
See, that's what I love. Is you guys are talking about, it is messy, right?
Yes.
It can be so messy, and we want to bury that mess. But what you two are talking about is that mess can also be your message. That can be that message of hope to another couple, that message of hope to another individual. Was there ever a part in your relationship, because Stephen talked about this in his book, in War Story, how he buried it, how he sought external forces, right, which is not uncommon in the military, whether it be women, pornography, alcohol, drugs. I mean, you name it. I mean, we try to avoid the drugs, right, because we don't want to be popped. But there's other things that we do to satisfy this hole in our soul. And we get to a point of being comfortably numb in our relationship, in your relationship. Did you get to a point where you were comfortably numb, but then obviously you found a way out of it. How did you find a way out of it?
I think I was just talking to a few individuals earlier today, and I mentioned that I'm just what if? What if? As I like expressing to other military, the big guy upstairs.
Yeah.
What if the big guy always gives you a way out? What if the one thing that you need, poof, it comes before you. There was a young pastor. He was a youth pastor, and my daughter actually drugged me to. I'd go to the youth program, and the young pastor would call him man of God. Hey, man of God. I remember looking at him. Don't call. You don't know me.
Yeah.
You don't know me.
Yeah. It's that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet, with each time, with each blow, I think it was the big guy, the Lord, cracking the nut, cracking my chest open, and you know, and just allowing. And I think it was the same thing for her. I mean, just different.
I knew something was there that he didn't want to tell me. I felt it, and I kind of pushed him. You know,
I remember.
and I remember when it finally opened up. It was devastating.
I had
Totally devastating.
just enough beverage in me. A question was posed. I said, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm tired. Ask me a question and I'll tell you no lie. About me. What about this? Yes. What about this? Yes.
But there's freedom in that too, right? It's painful.
Yes.
I think you guys are describing something. I think when we get on vision, when we get on purpose, people think that there's not a price to be paid for it. And we learn that on the battlefield. We learn that you know, when we serve something greater than yourself, there's always a price to be paid. And in a relationship, which can be messy, there can be prices that have to be paid. There can be things that we have to own. We have to own our story. We have to own our actions. And what I love is that you stuck by his side because you saw something bigger.
You know what? I like what you just said, that I saw something bigger. For me, it was, why is Satan trying so hard to divide us? Why is the enemy after us?
Yeah.
And the conclusion I came to was because we're stronger together. That's why he doesn't want to see that. We are stronger when we're together
And I mean, you know,
separately.
and you ask her if she trusts me. And the answer is emphatically no.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest,
Yeah.
I don't trust myself. I know who I am. And yet, I mean, if you ask her why she stays with me, she trusts.
I trust the God that is in him. That's who I trust. That's where my trust lies.
Yeah. I think that's such a powerful statement that we sometimes put our trust in the wrong place, right? And then that's what creates this unmet expectations, disappointment, fear, right? But to your point, when we place our trust where it should be, then the circumstances, the events, while they can be painful, they don't have to define us. Right? They don't have to define the relationship. You guys have stuck it out, and I think there's so much victory in that, and it's not easy, but I believe your mess is part of your message.
Actually, I mean, as I've had opportunity to speak into other, she was describing friends of ours that were married. To the guys, I'll tell them that for me, as to the level of knowledge that I've come to, I believe in this economy of life, in this playing field, that I really believe that knowing God is the most important thing that one can do. And so I'll tell individuals, if your spouse is driving a wedge between you and your relationship with God, by all means, divorce. I recommend it. Break it up. But, conjunction of contrast.
Yeah.
But, after 29 years of marriage, the number one tool that God uses to get through this thick shell is her.
That's an amazing
You
story.
know, God, she's killing me. Maybe that's the point, that I need to die to myself. And so,
But God never promised easy, right? Right? He never promised easy. I think what I love about Stephen's story is that he was able to come through some pain. He and his wife divorced, right? That was part of their story. They divorced and then yet they remarried and they got back and they moved from the how to the who, which is what you guys are describing. Is there was a lot of hows and a lot of reasons for you guys to abandon each other, to give up, to pack the bag, to leave, but you turned to the who. And the who for you is God. The who for you was listen, there's something greater than us. And if there was one thing you could share with a couple or with an individual, what would it be?
I would say that hard times will come. They will come. But if you trust in God, you will go through them, together. That's what we did, because, once he divulged, what he had to unpack, it was, I think I immediately said, we need to go talk to Pastor Tim. I mean, I know that our kids were fearful of what was going to happen. So that's another factor in this whole piece also, what kids go through. Because I can tell you, my kids can tell my husband exactly how many birthdays they missed, that he missed out on. So, there's the kids there's another component there too, with the kids also. Because I know, I think it was one of our kids that asked you if you were going to get divorced.
I mean, both of them, they asked me, Dad, are you going to get a divorce? I said, your mother has every right to divorce me. But this is my promise to you. I will not divorce you. I will stick it out. And that was a resolution, a resolve beyond me. And as she's describing, I mean, one of the things that she talks about having the faith and the hope. I retired from the military in 1999. I had to get out. In 2007, I was cooking for my old church. Somebody asked me a question about, Gary, can I ask you a personal question? What's stopping you from taking a radical decision to follow Jesus? Follow your faith. And short story long, I basically got invited back in the military. And I can remember, as the question was posed to me with my old commander, invited me back in, a man of God. And I don't know that he really knew what he was doing, but in any case, he invited me. He could make it happen. I remember coming home, and she was eating her breakfast, and I was trying to let her finish her breakfast, and finally she could just see it was on my face that, and then she's like, what? And I said, Colonel Wynn invited me back in the military. And she slowly put down her spoon. A tear came from her eye. And she said, go. I mean, after all I put her through, go. And yet, this time when I went back in the military, I wore my faith on my sleeve. For those who are in the military and have a faith, you can kind of, it doesn't matter whether you're in special ops or Ranger Battalion or infantry or whatever it is. I mean, you can feel like you're the lone stranger, like I'm the only one. And that, so it's so easy to get caught up in the wave. And yet, in going back in, it was almost like the Lord was just sharing with my heart that, almost like Elijah, where Elijah says, woe is me, there's no one else but I. And the Lord tells Elijah, no, there are 7,000 faithful men. And in my mind, Elijah, you should know. So this time when I went back in the military, I wore my faith on my sleeve. And it was just to see how many men of faith there are in the military. And that I think that, I think it's more common than uncommon. And that that individuals, they want to hear the good news. And it's about maybe how to live a life, how to live a life that's right with your wife. Because I remember even questioning, because on the team, we have this honor that we don't. Well, if I'm lying to my wife, What makes you think?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's a hypocrisy there. There's right. So if you were to say one thing to the men or women that are getting out or that have been out that are struggling with that, Mary, what would it be? What's that one thing? Is it you got to dig deep and find your purpose? You got to dig deep and you got to look beyond yourself. You got to. What is it? What's that one thing?
I think it's the willingness to open up. I believe that the Lord will put someone before you. And whatever it is that you, I really feel that you'll know deep in your bones, just like anything else that you're sure of, that I know I can confide in this person. And that is a start. Because
It's finding the who.
yeah,
It's finding the who.
and when and hopefully, I believe that there's going to be that person, and it may be something unlikely. And for me, it was that young pastor who's just calling me a man of God. That really, I think that
Cause you to pause.
yeah.
And I think that's what we all need to do is pause sometimes and just really reflect and understand that our mess can be our message and that we need to get ourselves right. Because when we get ourselves right, which is, that's a work in progress, right? But we can help other people heal through that. I want to thank you both. Thank you both for being part of this. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. Thank you, guys.